Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. And we have had a lot of comments about RFK, but I have not had an answer to the question that I posed. And I posed a very simple question based on his stance, which is actually all over his website. So let's do this. Actually, first, let me show you a couple of things, and then I will give you the question. So let me share my screen, and then we'll be able to set the table for what we are talking about. My video caused a lot of controversy because, and I'll have a link for you below, I aired this video, which was from October 21st, 2019. So right before all the hogwash was sloshed all over us. And I am not by any means at all saying that this was a planted interview. Absolutely. And I'm not being sarcastic. I think this just came up in this debate that was going on with Alex Epstein. It's very troubling to me to see this image here of the tape over the mouth. Now that's weird because this was 2019 and this was at Boulder, Colorado. They were actually debating on gas and oil and all of that kind of stuff, which is a topic for another day. But during that time, he said, I would love to debate you on the issue of the cocktails. That's what I call them, to overcome the algorithm. And then he said exactly these words. And I want you to read them so that when I play you the video, you'll be able to hear them. Because even though I played the video, many of you had your cognitive dissonance. You could not merge his actual words with your reality and perception of who he was. Now, listen, if you want to vote for him, that's your right. I would recommend that you hold his feet to the fire and you ask him about this comment. Here we go. He says, I don't think we should be mandating medical interventions for unwilling Americans unless, which means it just contradicts everything you just said, we know precisely that that cocktail is going to end up helping them rather than hurting them. Now, I'm going to play you that video. I'll slow it down for you again. There are a couple of things that trouble me that I mentioned in previous videos. I have many videos. So if you're interested in this topic, you can watch them in about 10 minutes each on an accelerated speed. And I urge you to watch the videos before you just leave a comment, not even knowing what I presented. So first of all, I do not like being referred to as an unwilling American just because I don't want to go along with the government. And when he says we, this was along the lines of the government. Okay. So I don't want to be referred to as unwilling. It's actually my choice to not consent to a medical intervention. So no, how about the smart Americans who are refusing this? And then he says, unless we know precisely that that is going to end up helping them rather than hurting them. So as an English teacher, maybe I just care more about words than many people, because so many of you tried to justify this statement. And you justified it by saying it was a long time ago. That's not really what he really meant. You're taking his words out of context. So don't listen to me, listen to him and email his campaign and his website and ask precisely if he still stands by this statement. Because what that statement says is that if these medical interventions can be proven that they hurt, that they don't hurt. That's actually what he said, that they end up helping people rather than hurting them, then he's in favor of mandating these medical interventions for unwilling Americans. You just start with his premise. If these work by helping people, then he's in favor of the medical mandates for unwilling Americans. Friends, I understand that you may have had your bubble burst, but that's no reason for you to attack me for simply bringing the light of truth. That's what I've been doing from day one. And I understand that many of you are having an emotional reaction to this information. And rather than scratching your head and going, wow, I've been bamboozled, I've been swindled, and I've been snookered here. Or maybe you can say, well, I knew that all the time, but I still think he's the best guy. At least be honest with yourself. So the question I have is this: are you really in favor? Is your main concern in all the hogwash that we've been through for the last 3 years, is it really the issue is to make the poison safer? If so, I'm the one that's flabbergasted. all of the thousands of videos that I've created over the last 3 years, the hundreds of thousands of comments, the millions of emails, literally, that we have been receiving, emails and comments on social media, people asking for my help to be able to go to their job, to go to the grocery store, to get medical treatment. In the beginning, it was just they wanted to breathe oxygen. Then they didn't want to have that laser pointed at their head. Then they didn't want to be subjected to the nasal rape. You've forgotten that already? Those are, I'm going to use the word that everybody loves, mandated, illegally, illogically, and illegitimately, I may add. These were measures that were instituted without any force of law. And you asked me to help you fight against it. And now when I bring you the cold, hard facts of reading between the lies, as I say, and actually listening, and it's not just him, but I only have 24 hours in the day. You let me know who you would like me to share their comments on this and their interviews and so forth on this platform. I'd be happy to do it. I don't have any beef with anyone. What I want is for you to understand who this man is, what he stands for, and then if you support him, hold his feet to the fire. You say, hey, I was confused about this comment, and I don't want to be mandated to do anything related to the government telling me what to do with these medical interventions. Imagine if the government mandated abortions. What if they mandated that you had to smoke? What if in the state of California, which it probably will happen soon, it's mandated that you no longer can call your child a son or a daughter. You just have to call them child. This is where I personally draw the line. I don't care if there's, let me say, when it comes to my freedom, whether or not they're safe isn't the issue. Of course, I care whether people are harmed, which is why I take issue with his other issue, which his whole platform is based on, which is making these poisons safer. It's not possible. So why create your whole platform around it? I'm going to remind you of that as well in case you didn't watch the other videos. But before I go any further, the question I have that RFK Jr. supporters have not given me an answer to yet, I have a couple of questions, but number one is your primary focus freedom from the government intervention in your body, all right? Freedom from the government imposing a medical requirement on you? Or is your main concern the safety of these poisons? Just let me know and just be honest. Because what I've been uncovering about RFK, and I would love to have these answers, and I have several questions that I posed in my newsletter that you can just copy and paste if you want to email. You can transcribe some of them that I posed in these last several videos. And if you're on my free Substack, I will be coming out with a long form article along these lines, and I will list these questions that I have for him, including how many children need to be harmed in your clinical placebo safety trials for childhood vaccines before it's determined, I can't believe I said that word, I might have to have that bleeped out, for childhood cocktails until it is determined that, oh, gee, sorry, kiddies, guess those dang things don't work after all. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic because it's quite upsetting to me. A lovely, healthy American who has been on the front lines of exposing autism for many, many years, has been on roundtable discussions with Junior, and she has asked him specifically, are you in favor of repealing the 1986 act that removed the liability for these, the big, I'll just call them medical companies? That's not on his website. I have not seen that as a priority step in terms of what he would do and what he's been fighting for. In fact, I have seen very, very little. It's been very minimized, the aspect of you have rights. The government cannot, under any circumstances whatsoever, require you to undergo a medical intervention against your will. That's what I want to hear strongly and repeatedly. Instead, what I'm hearing repeatedly is, I am pro-cocktail. I am vigorously pro-cocktail. And my lovely Healthy American on these roundtables said, I have a child that was damaged. I have a 21-year-old that is like a 5-year-old because of these cocktails. You telling this to me and thousands, probably millions of mothers and parents, siblings, and children that have suffered because of this, that she said, that is like telling the mother of a child who was killed by a drunk driver, I am fiercely pro-drunk driving. She said, how can you make that a statement that you stand on again and again without even coupling it with the phrase, but I am completely against, 100% against government mandates against any circumstances. I have not heard that, where I answer all the objections, such as, well, he's just saying that. Okay, isn't that weird? Is that kind of like a weird platform to just say things because it's what they want to hear? Well, you know, Peggy, he's a politician and he has to talk out of each side of his mouth. Well, couldn't he at least be saying something that you agree with, that isn't in direct opposition to what all of us, I thought, were fighting for the last? So you're telling me all of that government intervention and excessive imposition into your life that you would be okay with if the protocols worked. This junior goes on to say that the reason he wasn't in favor of the suffocation devices was because they didn't work. Well, I'm on the record to say that I'm never in favor of them being forced. You want to wear one, wear one. I know plenty of healthy Americans that have, and that's your choice, but not because the government required you to do so, because you chose to go along with the illegitimate, illegal request and I will say illegal requirements of the government. I never complied. Whether you did or didn't isn't the issue here. The issue is, do you want somebody in office? And maybe there is no one. Maybe that's the case, but at least hold this man's feet to the fire and ask him if he still stands by this comment. So let me show you his website, as I did in a previous video, but you may be new to this channel. You may not have watched all the videos. I understand. Let me show you. His platform is built on this notion of equating the cocktails with medicine. I also reject that notion. Many of you said, Peggy, he knows that these cocktails can never be safe. He's just saying that. He's saying that to push them, to prove that they can't be safe. He says that because then he knows it will never happen. Oh, really? Well, we were told by all y'all, the others, all the alphabet agencies for years that these were safe and effective, and people went along with it. So you can pay any so-called scientist to tell you something's safe. But what troubles me is something beyond that. He is speaking about the childhood cooties schedule, cocktail schedule for the cooties. He has spoken about that at length, that he's had all of his children get the cocktails. And I'm confused because he said that his children have had 72, but when I look at the ages of the children and when they were born and what the schedule was at that time, there were not 72 injections. So maybe he's just rounding up. But some of these things I'm like, aren't accurate. Again, ask him about that. Was he confused? Did he add them all up from all the children together? Did he mean his youngest child? What does he mean by that? But he said, I had all of my children become human pincushions. And then I'm going to play 2 videos for you where he repeats that. Well, one video where he says that he is, and another video that I aired earlier that many people didn't see or actually hear. You saw it, but you didn't hear it because of your cognitive dissonance. So the question I have for you is, how many children should be harmed in this charade of the safety testing? If that's his platform and he wants the placebo trials, I want you now, you RFK Jr. supporters who have been leaving comments saying, I got it all wrong. I misread the guy. How dare I criticize one of the candidates who could get us out of this morass, out of this hogwash? Friends, we don't want to be under a whole new hogwashing, especially designed for those of you that made it through the first one. There's a whole bucket ready to catch all y'all who got through the first one unscathed. because the bottom line is they want all of us under their spell. And they're going to keep putting people out there to get us under the spell. And it breaks my heart to see how many of y'all are still under the spell. So let's break that spell with facts and evidence, not emotions. No one is perfect. I've never said that a person needed to be perfect. I would like them to be consistent. And if so many people believe that his platform is based on anti-cocktails, you've got it all wrong. He himself says again and again that he is vehemently pro-cocktail. He wants safety testing on these childhood cocktails. That's what he complains about. And I agree. I don't think that children should be required to have this. What he doesn't mention is that his uncle, that he mentions his uncle a lot, I should say that. He mentions his father and his uncle. But he doesn't mention the point that JFK is the one who signed into law in 1961, the original law that gave federal money to the states to require the kids to get the cocktails in the first place. Now, I'm not saying he is going to be following what his uncle did or said, but it's strange to me that he never mentions that. It's strange to me that he never talks about, we need to get rid of federal funding for these cocktails. That would go a huge way. He never talks about having, pulling the CDC back and pulling it on a short leash. He talks about expanding it in ways of having more regulation, more testing, more oversight. As a person who is conservative and believes in limited government and individual freedom, not the common good, those ideas are in direct opposition to me, are as many of his other ideas related to the climate, abortion, guns. I can't believe I said that either, bang bangs and other things. So I would love to see a candidate who evolves and develops and grows in his position. So those of you that are leaving comments defending this man's words, I would like you to also spend the equal or more amount of time emailing this candidate, Kennedy, and asking for answers to these questions. Would he, under any circumstances, require a government mandated cocktail? Ask. And what would those circumstances be? Here's the next question. How many children, for how many years, under whose observation, because the Granny Gates Foundation does a lot of safety testing on these cocktails. Yeah, I'm sure there's no fraud or grift or anything there at all. We can absolutely, be assured that all that information is going to be accurate. I just don't like this at all. I don't like opening up that door for more testing. Who are these innocent children that are going to be tested on? And I want you that are leaving the comments, defending his comments, answer that question. I've never seen an answer. Out of the thousands of views on the videos now, I have not seen one person who is supporting this candidate answer that question. How many children should be harmed, maimed, irreparably damaged before it can be determined that, I guess those things don't work after all? Where are the discussions about our own natural immunity? Why isn't that at the forefront? Where's the discussion about the theory of illness and disease anyway? It is a theory, and there is no irrefutable evidence that I personally have anything to do with anybody else's immune system or status of health, if you get my drift as I'm explaining the truth here. So why don't we have research? I'd like to see research going into that perhaps. But this constant drumming of V safety, that's an oxymoron. You can't even have safety coupled with that word. But let me do this. Let's just hop right on over and we will take a look-see, shall we? Because some of you missed it. Maybe you didn't watch the end of the video, but here we go. I'm going to share my screen. This is his website. You don't have to listen to his words, just read the words. Here we go. Let's see if they made any other changes based on my information. No, they didn't. It still says V safety. It goes on and on, V safety monitoring. It is sending the message that somehow this poison can be safe. Shouldn't it say the V danger? Shouldn't it say exposing the dangers of the V of the cocktail? Yet it goes on and on and on. He's got 6 steps to achieve this safety. And he wants the same rigorous approval process, which means people are going to be harmed. Now, listen, I already did a video on this. I'm not going to repeat myself. A question was raised that I didn't answer. I'm going to answer it now. Peggy, does that mean that you are against all testing of medicine? I'm against the testing of medicine on innocent children who are unable to choose for themselves whether or not they want to participate. If you want to go try out some drugs and be a part of a clinical trial, go for it. I'm not going to do it, but you have the right to do so. Innocent children and innocent animals, no, I draw the line. Friends, let me end by playing this. I've got a couple videos for you. As you listen to this video and you become outraged that how dare I twist the words of your hero, I get it. The knight in shining armor fell off the white horse and you're grieving. All right. And the first stage of grief is anger. It's denial. You're in denial. You don't believe it. And then you get angry, and you get angry at me because I'm the one that brought you this information. Why don't you get angry at him? Why don't you question him? And then there are other stages where you have sadness and regret. And then finally you have understanding and acceptance. I want you to use this to fuel you to be a critical thinker. Years ago, we were in the position of trying to shake people awake, saying, don't you see what's going on here? Here's the evidence. And they wouldn't look at it. I feel like I'm in the Groundhog Day twilight zone. I'm presenting evidence to you that you don't want to see. Now, you can still agree with what he says, but be honest with yourself. If you agree that the government should, if these are proven safe after all the safety testing he wants to do, then the government has the right for unwilling Americans to force it on you. Ask him about that. I'm not okay with it. All right. I am not okay with it.
And I don't think that we ought to be mandating medical interventions for unwilling Americans unless we know precisely that vaccine is going to end up helping people rather than hurting them.
Let's go to this. So that was 2019, October 2019. So I don't have a personal beef with anyone, but I am not personally going after anyone. This is an individual who is a public figure, who is running for the president, and who apparently has some contradictory information, at least for you, my healthy Americans. You didn't know that he calls himself fiercely pro-cocktail. So I wanted to bring this to you so that you could evaluate and draw your own conclusions as to whether or not this is a person that you trust, that you want to vote for, and that you support. When he created his children's health defense, and I thought it's so strange that it's focused on safety instead of focused on educating parents. They don't have to go along with this. I would like to see all of that time and energy and effort and videos and articles and all the fundraisers and all of that talk to parents saying, all you have to do is keep your child pure. He has an immune system that works. You don't have to go along with all of this. And here's how to do it. And here's the forms to use. That's what I would like to see. That we can hold their feet to the fire, ask them these questions. So question number 1, and my question for you, are you personally in favor? I'm just going to repeat it again and again in case you hopped on later and you didn't hear it in the beginning. The question no one has answered for me is the issue for you that the government has no right to force you to undergo a medical intervention? That would be like forcing pregnant women to have abortions because of, climate control. It's a public safety issue. There are too many children. Therefore, an executive order is going to be written. I'm not saying this guy's going to do it. I'm giving an example of the government requiring you to undergo a medical intervention. Is that your most pressing issue, that you have the right to not have the government force you to undergo a medical intervention against your will or at all? Or is the real issue for you that these things just aren't safe enough and that they need to be safer so that then the government can require you to do it? Some of you have said, Peggy, it doesn't have to be either or. I'm in favor of both. Well, that's fair. But why isn't Kennedy talking at least equally about the fact that the government does not have the right to require this? That's very troubling to me. And then the second question is, with all of his speaking about, and I will play another video within the Pierce Morgan interview where he clearly states again, I am in favor of placebo clinical safety trials for all of these. They should be treated just like other medicine. Number one, it's not medicine in my eyes. They're products that are intended to do stuff, but I wouldn't put them under the category of medicine. I have an immune system. And number two, if you're talking about all of the cocktails, that includes those that they're giving to children. How many children for how long should be harmed, and maybe even worse, before it's determined that you can't make poison safer?